Hey, Theater Inspires! Welcome to Make It Sparkle, a series to get ideas and inspiration for your theater and dance shows. This video is about directing and writing for theater, and it features Gordon Greenberg. Gordon is one of the most inspiring, accomplished creators in theater today. He's directed on Broadway, off-Broadway, in London's West End, and has written for television and the stage. His West End revival of Guys and Dolls won 6 Olivier Awards. Gordon wrote and directed the Broadway stage adaptation of Irving Berlin's Holiday Inn. Others show credits to his name: Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Most Talkative, The Secret of My Success, Disney's Tangled, West Side Story, and beyond. Hope you enjoy this and get some fresh ideas.
I started to assemble the kids in my neighborhood and make them perform plays. First it was Grease, full disclosure, and we did it like using the garage. There's like, those automatic garage clickers, and that would be the curtain, and I'd have them waiting, and I made people buy tickets. And I think I just liked being a producer, director, creator. And then I started writing original stories. And this is so far back, but after that, I would say when I was in my first Broadway show, I should say, when I was 13. I had been begging my parents to go to theater camp that I saw advertised in the back of the New York Times magazine called Stage Door Manor. And I went and had the time of my life, and an agent came up that summer and auditioned the entire camp and chose 4 or 5 of us to represent, and I was fortunate to be one of those people, and we went on a bunch of auditions, and eventually that year I got cast in this show called The Little Prince and the Aviator. Anyway, a great team, but not a great show, and they couldn't figure out how to make it work. And it has the distinction of being one of the few shows that for the producer, although it was a massive flop, he made a lot of money because we got kicked out of the theater before we even opened, and he then sued the Nederlanders and made millions of dollars. But it was me and Anthony Rapp and a younger Ellen Green, and I played young Michael York. So that was the beginning of my intimate association with British dialects. I'm sure it was terrible at the time, but I was very proud of it. After that, I felt like I knew a thing or two about theater, and then I started directing the shows at my high school. And I was the student director, but we were fortunate or unfortunate enough to have someone running the theater department who wasn't so interested in running the theater department. So he was all too happy to kind of take a seat in the back of the auditorium with a brown paper bag and let me go for it. And wouldn't you know, I directed Grease. I was so excited. I was like, well, I got the first show. And I did it, and I loved it. And then I went to college. I first went to Stanford, and then I ended up at NYU studying in a triple major, which was amazing that they allowed this, to study film and art history and economics. That was sort of the next branch of studies. And then I ended up taking a job for a while at JWT, which is J. Walter Thompson, an ad agency, sort of producing and directing all their like spec commercials and industrials and everything that would service their clients. And I thought I was going to go on to be a film director, producer. And I found myself missing theater more and more. And in those 2 years, I had tried to stay away from theater because it was almost like smoking. Like if you quit smoking, you're like, I cannot have one or I'll break the seal. And so I didn't want to go to see a show. I was scared I'd be pulled back in, and I went to see it was Romance in Hard Times with Billy Porter by William Finn at the Public, and I was so taken with it. I went back 3 times that week. I just kept going and seeing it, and I finally knew I wanted to get back to theater. I missed it. I missed the immediacy. I was sick of, quite frankly, sitting in editing rooms, looking at like the same footage of a tire in the rain for like 4 hours in a row and quibbling over a millisecond of that. And I did it. I went back to acting class. I started acting again. I ended up in How to Succeed in Business on Broadway with Matthew Broderick, and then Grease, the Jeff Calhoun directed version with all the, millions of sitcom stars. Once I did that, and then some TV shows, and I felt like I had challenged myself and got that out of my system, and then started directing really for free. And I asked friends, anyone who had a theater or connection to it, I volunteered to direct for free. And I knew at the time there were all these up and coming composers like Jason Robert Brown and Andrew Lippa and Kirsten Childs. And these were my friends and people that I adored, and I loved the work they were doing. And I started putting evenings together of new work. And this was before everyone and his brother was doing this. And there just weren't, the venues didn't exist in the same way. And from that, I got my first few opportunities to direct for money. But it took a lot of work for free. I'll never forget the first review we got was in the Westchester papers. My parents, I knew they were going to read it, and all their friends. And a reviewer named Jacques Lesord, who I could say his name because he's dead now, but he hated me clearly, and wrote a scathing review, and I was crying, and I thought, okay, I'm not meant to be a director. I'll figure out something else. I'll go run a hedge fund. I don't know. I just didn't know what I was going to do, but I had big misgivings, and I believed it. And then the next day, the New York Times published their review, and it was like a rave, like the opposite. And then I thought, okay, there's a lot of ups and downs in this business, and I stuck with it. And then from that, I really got my first kind of fancy agent, who has remained my agent and friend all this time for 20 years. I continued from there. And writing took, another 10 years almost until I had the courage to write. It's so hard when you're kind of type A personality, I guess, a perfectionist. It's a really tough lesson to learn, whether you're an actor or an artist of any sort, or really just a human being, that you can't be good until you recognize and accept that you're never going to be perfect. And if you're trying to write something perfect, nothing will ever come out. And so it took some courage, some red wine, some, just sort of throwing caution to the wind to get to that place where I would just write things and put it in a drawer for a while, and then come back. And even if I hated 90% of it and I had a few lines that were good, that was more than I had the week before. So,
hey, thanks for watching. If you've directed or written shows for the stage and have ideas or tips to help other theater creators make their shows a success, please be sure to include it in the comments below.